You're listening to First Fossil. Because sometimes you simply need someone to help you take that first fossil.
Hello and welcome to First Fossil, a show where we learn together how to take that first fossil toward becoming the best versions of ourselves. My name is Candace Olushala, and I just had the sweetest morning, actually. I got up, I was reading my Bible, I was getting ready to record, and my neighbor, she got locked out of her house. So helped her with something. She went and ran an errand. She came back, and her almost 3-year-old, he's going to be 3 next week, he came up and said, "Miss Candy, I want you to come on a walk with me." So I put on my shoes and we made a loop around our neighborhood. He was telling me everything that he was seeing. He wanted to show me the leaves, the grass, the flowers, the butterflies, the acorns, the pine cones, everything around him. He was just so fascinated by it. And I looked at his mom and said, "Man, I wish everything was so fascinating to me as an adult." It just reminded me of how beautiful the heart of a child can be and how they see things that as adults we take for granted. I was moved by his worldview. I really, truly was. And so it just made a bright spot. It made a bright spot on my day, seeing that, hearing him wanting to show me things. He invited me inside their house for lunch, and he wanted to eat lunch with me, and he wanted me to play with him. I absolutely just loved that. So that's why I'm very cheerful today. But that has nothing to do with the topic. I just wanted to share with you the morning I had because it was just fantastic. But I wanted to say also that I hope that you liked last week's episode. I really enjoyed getting back into this. I thought I would be kind of weird and awkward and rusty, but it was like riding a bike. I know it has only been like 2 months of not putting out episodes, but when you get into a routine like that, sometimes you just feel like maybe it's not going to be that great, but I enjoyed it. So I hope you guys loved it too. Jumping into today's episode, I have been thinking a lot about moments in my journey towards wholeness and freedom and things that I had to come to terms with in myself. One of those things was what triggers me. And so today we're going to talk about triggers. Everyone has triggers, and if they no longer have them, then they were probably healed from them. But I think everyone has some level of trigger. Heck, even Jesus had triggers, okay? Do y'all remember the table? I don't know how many of you guys know the story in the Bible where Jesus came in and like super hulked it in the church and was like, "No, you're not going to turn my father's house into a den of thieves. Flip the table. Wah-wah." Like he went all ninja on the people, on the saints. And they were like, "Oh, Jesus." And he was like, "I said what I said and I meant it. So you better get out." Okay. He wasn't playing with them. So even Jesus had triggers, guys. So, I'm not necessarily opposed to triggers. My thing is what's behind the trigger, what causes the trigger. And I want to specifically talk about triggers that really hold us back from living a life filled with joy and fulfillment and excitement, or things that hold us back from being our truest self. So I actually took some time today and wrote down things that I remember being triggered by and things that even in my wholeness and freedom, I have to remind myself that I don't have to cater to those triggers anymore, because I know the truth about myself and my circumstances and my past. And I'm liberated to be authentically me, knowing that not everyone's going to enjoy that, but I'm not here to please all the people. I only please the Lord. Okay. So I sat down and I thought back on things that really, really triggered me. And I just wrote down like 3 of them, but I want to kind of unpack this from my perspective and see if you guys can relate to this, because triggers are often a manifestation of a deeper issue. It's really something that's hitting a button in us for something that we're probably already dealing with on the back end in our private time, things that we don't know how to process or things that we don't know how to deal with quite yet. So we express the deeper rooted issue in the surface level pain or fear or anger. So these were some of the triggers that I wrote down. So one of my triggers that really captivated my person and no longer does is the thought that I wasn't being heard, or I didn't feel heard oftentimes, or that my words lacked any value or didn't hold weight with people. And so as a child, I actually I remember moments when I would go up to someone and I'd be so proud. I'd be so excited to share this thing. And I say it to them and they just go, oh, okay, whatever. Or they don't pay attention. And then I would see those same people watch my brothers do something and they are blown away. They want to tell people, wow, did you see what so-and-so did? And I'm like, okay, am I like a sack of potatoes? Come on, like, what is this? And so it was though when I said something or did something, it wasn't that big of a deal. And so I felt overlooked. I felt unimportant. I felt that I was trying to keep up to match the reactions that my brothers would often get from people. It's like, how do I get people to react to me like that? How do I stir that up in people? What is wrong with me? What is wrong with who I am? Something has to be wrong. And I carried that burden throughout adulthood. I carried it with me up until really last year. I felt as though no matter what I did, no matter what I achieved, that I would be somehow overlooked and lesser than, especially in comparison to my brothers, who I love. I love my brothers so much. I love them with every fiber of my being. But when the world compares you to those that you love, it creates barriers in your mind, even when you don't want those barriers to be there. Towards them, or even maybe not so much towards them, but sometimes towards yourself. And you start to either get mad at them for being who they are, or you get mad at yourself for who you think you are or perceive you are based on the reactions and the words of other people when they see you, or worse yet, don't see you. So I dealt with that. And I also dealt with the pain of when someone would point out a fear that I was already questioning within myself, whether that be my strong desire to try to be perfect. And I had this image of perfection in my mind that I was running towards, that I felt like I was getting further and further away from the harder I tried to reach it. There was also this fear that I was not smart, that I was not as intelligent as people saw my brothers or even my dad to be, my mom to be. I felt as though I didn't uphold the family name of intelligence. And I felt like an imposter trying to seek that. When someone would point out my weight, especially when I would go to doctors and they would say things about my weight being the reason why I was having so many health issues, and my weight would go up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down. And I still deal with my weight, but I had this fear that anytime someone pointed out something about my weight, whether they were trying to help me or whether they were actually being mean about my weight, I took it as something personal, in that they were pointing out my inability to be loved, be attractive, be sought after, to be worthy, and that I was imperfect because I didn't have the perfect body. And that captivated my mind all the time, hearing people talk about my weight, or me starting to tell myself about my weight as though to jump in front of other people. So that would be a trigger. Or I would just have this defensive attitude, and I felt validated in my reasons why I was defensive in certain areas of my life. In the back of my head, though, I knew that I didn't want to be defensive, and I didn't want to enter into a serious relationship, just being candid, where I would be carrying the hurt and the pain and the internal suffering with me into a serious relationship, and hopefully marriage, and hopefully motherhood. And me just carrying it and holding it and bringing it like a U-Haul of my feelings and emotions and thoughts of negativity toward myself into a marriage, into motherhood, and dumping it on my family when they didn't have any part in my pain or my suffering, and to just dump it on them. I had this fear that if I didn't fix that part of myself, I would be holding back the love that I want to give them someday, when the time is appropriate to share that with them. And so it was like this battle. So anytime someone said you're defensive or you're being defensive, it would make me more defensive in that moment, while I'm having this internal dialogue going like, I hate that about myself. I don't want to be defensive, and I feel validated in my defense. How do I break from this? I feel like I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place. I want the defensiveness, but I don't. I feel validated in it, but I don't want it. And so that triggered me when people would say, oh, you're being defensive, or why are you speaking like that? Like, calm down. It would rile me up. And I truly felt like when they would point out those types of fears, and there's a laundry list more of fears that I had, anyone outside of me pointing out a fear, whether they realized it or not, when they would point out a fear that I was already questioning within myself, in my quiet spaces, in my prayers with God, in my diaries, in my thoughts, and in my feelings towards myself, it felt like attack it would feel like an attack on my person, on who I am. And it would feel as though people were acknowledging that they saw that I was lesser than. And so their acknowledgement, I felt that their acknowledgement, or what I thought was acknowledgement, or I internalized it as such. I thought that showed, one, that I wasn't covering up my insecurities well enough because someone noticed. And I tried really hard to cover up my insecurities, like daily. This was something that I strived to do. So I would beat myself up for not doing it well. So I figured covering up was easier than just dealing with it or addressing it. But as an empath, I didn't cover up very well. I can look back on myself and say, I was raw, even in my attempts to not be in front of the people. And so, yeah, when they would point something out, I would feel like I wasn't doing my job right of covering up my insecurities well to play the part that I thought I was supposed to play. And two, that it confirmed my own thoughts that I wasn't perfect and that I was the one holding myself back from meeting the person I'm going to marry, meeting someone special that God will bless for me to marry, and two, achieving the greatness that I saw in my family that I didn't feel I could achieve. That was triggering for me. Super triggering. I hated when people would say something, even if they said it in love, even if they said it in honesty, I would bite back. I would blame them. I'd be like, be quiet, shut up. You don't know. You have no idea what I'm going through. You have no idea what it's like to live in my shoes. Don't even talk right now. You're living this perfect life and you are with your person, or you have your kids, or you're already graduated. You have fame. You have all these things that I'm trying to even barely touch the hem of. So don't come at me from your high space and come down to me and say, oh, I know what you want. I know what you need. You're this, you're that. Shut up. Leave me alone. And the entire time I'm going, they see it. They get it. And I wouldn't want to listen at all. I wouldn't want to listen at all, even when people were coming from a place of showing me love. I couldn't hear it. I couldn't receive it. I would push it on them. I would say it's their fault. Leave me alone. You hurt my feelings. How can you be so mean? How could you say that? And yet, I'm projecting my fear of being exposed to them. And some of those people, once I, calmed down and really assessed where I was and wrestled with my demons, those very same people that were coming at me with love were still there in love. And they cheered me on, and it made me feel guilty for even responding to them. But I also was thankful that that didn't sway them from loving me any less, because they understood. And now I can extend that back to other people. Another trigger that I'd written down was when someone would tell me what to do, like they knew better than me. I could get so angry taking direction from people, especially from people that I thought hurt me, and I thought they felt validated in how they hurt me. And I thought they had pride in telling me what to do. It would be so triggering to me, to the point of just being enraged. I would feel like they would be attacking my intellect, my ability to process and reason and figure things out. How dare you give me any kind of advice or instruction? Who do you think you are? I felt like it was an attack on my mind. And I was trying so hard to make people think that I was smart, when from childhood, I thought that I was an incompetent person faking competence. And I just hope that no one would find this out. But when I failed my first semester of pharmacy school, I thought to myself, I spent almost a quarter century faking intellect. And me failing has just exposed my imposter, my inner imposter. I can't even hide from this. There's nowhere to run. I have nowhere to go. I was vulnerable and naked in my failure. And so anyone that wanted to talk about it, anyone that wanted to bring it up to me, even when they would see how I was a ticking time bomb. Don't talk to me about this. You're perfect. You're doing all these great things. You're in this amazing season of your life. Get over yourself. Don't talk to me. Leave me alone. I had to sit with my triggers, all of them. I, on purpose, went ahead and started writing things. I had to write them down, things that triggered me, things that made me angry, things that made me afraid, things that hurt me, things that I didn't want to look at, but knew that if I didn't look at it square in the face, it was going to stay there. I think a lot of people feel like this. I don't think I'm the only one. When we see people get defensive, when we see people blow up, when we see people lash out, especially when you're coming in love, or maybe you experience that. Maybe you've blown up at people. Maybe you've blamed them for saying something to you or pointing something out to you, when in reality, you're just triggered because you're already trying to figure this out and you're frustrated that you haven't yet. So when someone points something out, even when they care, you think they're pointing out an inadequacy, when in reality, they're showing you love, that you don't have to be afraid of that, and that a process is fine. Everyone goes through a process, but when we're in pain, when we are suffering, when we cannot figure out why life is this way, why are my circumstances like this, why are these things happening to me, and why do I have to work so hard to pretend like I have it all together? Everyone else seems like they're living an Instagram perfectly filtered life in reality, and they're not. They're not. But a lot of times it can feel that way. And so we can put up our spiritual boxing gloves and be like, look, I'm going to fight you back. So I'm trying to protect me. I'm sure some of you guys have felt like that. Maybe not all the time. And maybe, yeah, every single second of your life. Triggers are suffocating. triggers are blinders. Triggers are a means to shackle us from our breakthrough. When we are confident in everything that we are, that the pain, some of which is valid to feel, but it's not valid to carry. A lot of things. When those things are shackling us, binding us, and preventing us from being able to see our whole self the way that we are created and designed and born to be, we're ready to fight. Why are we spending our lives fighting to the point where we fight people that aren't to be in our battles? They're not even our enemies. The lies are the enemies. The lies are the enemies, and yet we can take our pain and our suffering into connections, relationships with people that don't even deserve the responses that we're giving them because we haven't dealt with it yet. Now, sometimes it's going to take therapy, like serious, drawn out therapy. Sometimes it takes coaching. For me, coaching helped so much. Sometimes it takes sitting with God, your creator, who you believe in, and saying, hey, we need to talk because this is not working. Take me on the journey. Sometimes it takes sitting down with people that have triggered us and having those uncomfortable conversations. Sometimes it means writing it out, especially when we can't or it's not safe to have those conversations, but to just get our thoughts out and our feelings out and to try to find a different angle to look at them from. Triggers are hard. Triggers can hold us back. Triggers are tough to swallow. The things that trigger us are tough to swallow. But we can handle it. You can handle it. I know you can. I say that because I never thought I would reach a breakthrough. I never thought I would be allowed to put my boxing gloves down, take them off, and live in full surrender to the real me. I didn't think that was an option. I didn't think I had a choice. But I fought for my choice. It took 10 years. But now I'm not so easily triggered. Now there's things that are positive that trigger me, like wanting to fight for social injustice. That's a good thing. So when I see injustice, we're not having that. Not over here. Not today. Not today. We're not doing all that. Things like that trigger me to want to be an activist, to want to point out evils in the world. I'll take those triggers. I'll take those because they drive me to do things that can change the world. And I love seeing those types of triggers in people that are willing to speak out when things are wrong, even when they know people don't want to hear it. They're like, look, we need to talk about this because this is going to air things out. It's how I feel about my purpose, driven to disrupt mindsets and then bridge the gap that was there. It's like tearing that veil and creating a space for healing. Those type of triggers, I'll take them any day. But the negative ones, the ones that sometimes the residual thoughts that come back, I have to turn away, or I actually give people permission now to speak to me when they feel like they see something wrong in me. I actually recently, I told my mom, not so recently, maybe a couple months ago, but I was frustrated because I had gained back weight that I had worked so hard with my transformation coach to lose. And I started going back to my old ways. I was speaking very negatively towards myself, calling myself names that kids used to call me when I was a kid in middle school. And before that moment, I had called my mom and I was going off on myself. I had told my mom, please, if you hear me speaking like this, stop me. Say, Candace, no, you are not that person anymore. You will not speak to yourself like that. This is who you are. And speak life in me. I told her to do that. And in that moment, even though I didn't want to hear it, because it's weird how triggers also give us this high almost, because we're comfortable. We're comfortable in our pain. We're comfortable in our suffering. And we actually like the attention that sometimes it brings. Sometimes we like that people give us an attention that we'd rather have healthfully. But if we can get it in an unhealthy way, at least it's attention. And so I knew in that moment that if I called my mom and I spoke to her that way, I would have this sense of comfort in my spirit to have my mom try to help me and like, oh, how can I help you with your diet and things like that. No. Thank God I had told her ahead of time what to really say to me, because now she challenged my mindset. And I was actually very angry for her. I was angry with her for doing exactly what I had told her to do prior. I was angry in the moment, but I ignored my anger. I was in the moment angry and ignored it to try to listen to what she said. And I got really quiet and I was fuming at her through FaceTime. I just said, okay, mom, whatever. And I knew she was right. And she chose to help edify me and remind me and help me get back up. It took me some time. I had to calm down. I had to process the situation. And then I thanked her later. Thank you for speaking the truth in me, even though in that moment I didn't want to hear it. I didn't need that. I didn't think I needed it, but I also knew I needed it. So yeah, sometimes our triggers can be very comfortable, too comfortable. And we try to blame others for something that we secretly actually like to feel, while at the same time we don't really want it all the time. It's a very weird space to be in. If I had any advice or words of wisdom from my experience and watching others go through this too, to reach their breakthrough and embrace their wholeness and heal from the traumas, the pain, the frustrations, the resentments, everything that triggers them. If I had anything to say, one, I would say ask yourself why. Why did this trigger me? Sometimes we don't want to go down that path. We kind of just want to live in the land of the trigger and in the emotion. And then we might do things to tell ourselves, no, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good. But when we actually look our triggers in the eyes, we say, well, why did that trigger me? And then we answer that question. It's like, well, why does that bother me? And then we answer that question. And if we ask ourselves why enough, we'll eventually find the root. Because again, the trigger, all it does is allow for an expression of a deeper rooted issue to come forth. And usually what comes forth isn't the real issue. What comes out isn't the root. Anger is usually a sign of pain or frustration. Where is it coming from? Why is it there? What happened? When was the first time you felt this? I've had these types of questions with some of my coaching clients, and I've asked them, why does that trigger you? Why do you feel this anger towards this person or towards the situation? How come when I say this, your whole stance just changed? Your face, the affect of your face just completely shifted. Where's that coming from? Talk to me about that. Ask yourself why. The second thing would be write it out. Or if you're a faith-based person, pray. Write it out and pray. Once you can see it and then help yourself process through it, or ask God to help you process through it, and the Holy Spirit to help you have the discernment to know where's this coming from. Something else I would suggest is actually sitting in your feeling versus running from it. I say that because, like I had said last time, to plant ourselves in our feelings and in our thoughts, which is often what triggers reveal to us that we want to anchor ourselves in the things that we feel strongly about or we think strongly about. And yet it doesn't help us to know what the actual issue is so we can address it and resolve it and have peace and joy in our lives. When we sit in the feeling or in the thought, not plant. I'm not saying to plant ourselves there for self-validation and pride that we want to hold on to this. Like I deserve to have this feeling because this happened. I deserve to have this feeling because they said that, or I deserve to have this feeling because whatever. I'm not saying plant to dig your roots into it or to lay your foundation on it, but to sit in it, marinate yourself in it, and allow yourself to feel it. Don't run from it. Just say, okay, I'm going to acknowledge that I'm very pissed off right now. I'm going to acknowledge that what they said or what they did made me feel, and then fill in the blank, small, empty, unworthy, unloved, little, belittled, stupid, ugly. And treat yourself as though you're speaking to the child in you that needs someone to come down to their level, meet them eye to eye and say, I see you. I hear you. I'll sit with you here. At some point, we're going to have to get up, though. And you're strong enough to get up by yourself. You are. You're strong enough to feel the feelings that you're feeling. You're strong enough to process the thoughts that you're thinking. I actually believe in you. You're capable. And I'll be right here. I'm going to sit with you down here on the floor. I'm going to look you in the eye. You can do that. You can feel it. You can think it. And you can get up from it. And leave it on the floor. There's something so empowering, something so freeing to know that you can handle your own emotions and thoughts and that they don't have to take captive over your life and that the words of other people don't have to trigger you. They don't have to break you. When you go on that journey to being whole, being free to be you, seeing the real you on the other side of the you think you are and perceive yourself to be, the true you, man, chains are broken. I'm a living testament of that. To take that first step, that first paso towards looking yourself in the eye and saying, that triggered me. That hurt me. That broke me. I haven't figured this out yet. But I'm not going to stop until I do. Because I choose not to live a slave to my triggers anymore. I will not allow what people say about me to throw me off. I am who I am. I receive all of who I am. Repeat that with me. I am who I am. I receive all of me. I am worthy of love. I am worthy of respect. I might not believe it today, but I will fight to believe it tomorrow. And if you already walk in wholeness and freedom, I know you know what I'm talking about. I know that you can see when other people are really struggling. And you can show them grace in that space. And sometimes you have to apologize and say, I'm so sorry that what I said triggered you. Sometimes people aren't ready yet. They just hope and pray for their processing, especially if you love them dearly. And then be there if and whenever they're ready. Sometimes don't say anything. Just hope and pray for them behind the scenes, that they can step into all that you already see them to be. You just want them to catch up. I love me. I love everything about me, flaws and all. My weight can go up. I love me. My weight can go down. I love me. I can struggle to understand something. I love me. I have no problems asking questions now. I don't feel embarrassed to ask questions or to say, I don't really know that. Can you explain that to me? Can you break it down? Yeah, I have no shame. Zero. But because I know who I am, if someone tries to say something about me that I know for a fact is not true, I can stand in my truth, in the truth of who I am, which is I'm loved. I personally am a daughter of the Most High God, and my value never diminishes no matter where I am, who I'm around, what's going on. My value is the same, priceless. If someone even tries to come at me and say anything about my character that I already know is not true, or they are they're misunderstanding something, I will not only stand up for myself, but I'll try to clarify. And if it's something that is for real, like I know that what they said is actually true, I'm more able, still learning and breaking those habits, but I am more able to receive what I hear, especially if it's someone who actually knows me. I invite my friends and my loved ones to tell me when I'm not being fair, or I'm not being honest, or I'm not being real with myself. I want that because I know that friends sharpen each other. We're not to agree with each other all the time, but true friends and true loved ones, family that loves you, people that you've adopted as family, if they say something out of concern or worry, it's because they care. That's the no that I can land on. That is the rock that I can stand on. They only said that because they care. If they said it in a way that I didn't want to receive it, that's just a wording issue. But the heart of where they're coming from is that they care. So let me stand on that. Let me sit in that. And let me try to figure out why that bothered me. Yeah. So to anyone who sits alone, lives alone, might be surrounded by people and feel alone, or think you're alone, and how you feel towards yourself, it's not the best picture in the world, or you have this fear that other people see you a certain way. You're not the only one. There's tons out there feeling that same thing, and it's not true. Nothing that's happened to you has taken away who you truly are. Nothing that has pained you, nothing that anyone has said has devalued you. You are loved, you are cherished, you are wanted, you are worthy, and you have purpose. Not being sure of that purpose doesn't take away from the fact that you have purpose. It's okay to still be healing. It's okay to still be processing. It's okay to need time. It's okay to go on your journey. As long as the goal that you have is one of breakthrough into a life of being free to live in joy, that you are exactly who you were born to be. So that's the end of this episode. Let me know, is there something that triggers you? Have you been triggered recently or in the past and haven't been able to shake it? Have you dealt with your triggers and now are seeking to help other people deal with theirs so they can enter in that space of wholeness and freedom with you? I really do want to hear from you guys. I do. I love learning from you guys, and your thoughts and feelings are valid. They matter. your journey, your story, your testimony matters. And someone needs to hear from you. So I want to hear from you. I may just be the person that needs to hear from you too. This is a two-way street. This is not the Candace show. This is us taking our first pasos towards becoming the best versions of ourselves. Sometimes those steps are really hard, but know that you're not alone. You're not alone in this. Somebody is cheering you on, even if that person's me. So, thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you want to hear more topics like this or other things relating to some of those harder subjects that we wrestle with, anything about wanting to reach your wholeness and your freedom or make better connections with people, let me know. Send me your ideas either on IG, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You can go on my website and reach out to me. Would love to hear from you guys. I'm at Candace Olushala on most everything. And then my podcast IG is at First Paso. You can also go to www.firstpaso.com and see all that I have to offer there. I have merchandise. I have Patreon that you can join. You can also donate to this podcast and everything First Paso Media. You can reach out and ask to be coached by me. I would love to connect with you and see if we are a good fit for coaching. And you can kind of tell me your story. I'd love that. And I want to go ahead and apologize and say sorry to those who have been triggered by people that you love. Heck, if I've triggered you, I'm sorry. I apologize. I hope that you get to assess the situations that have triggered you and you get to have breakthroughs, that they don't captivate you anymore. I know that sometimes we're just going through a tough season and that's a little different. But know that you are loved again. Someone is standing by you. You got this. Love you guys. Take care. Stay safe. Wash your hands. The Rona is still out there. I'm telling you, she's not letting up. She acting crazy now. But yeah, see what you can do to help out with COVID relief anywhere. Reach out. There's still locations needing vaccinations, people needing masks, people needing resources, whatever you can do to help. Seek those opportunities and pour into the world around you. Love you guys. Take care. Bye.